Okay. Okay, it's Rachel Hatfield here again with Sean Ronnau, LPC from Central Arkansas, and he's in private practice over there. And we're going to be talking about one of his passions with blacksmithing and therapy.
We talked earlier about how, I have this passion about destigmatizing mental health issues, counseling, etc. That is Charlie, my Australian Shepherd, and I'll come back around to talk about him in a second too, because he does connect in the story as well. It was kind of crazy. My buddy told me about it, and I just got lost in it basically. And so right now we're sitting in my home forge. So if you're familiar with the show Forged in the Fire, you're familiar with why that language works like that. The guys compete, and then at the end, the last two competitors go to their home forges to forge a signature blade, right? So have you seen that show before?
I have. My son and my husband are obsessed with it. They love
it. Everybody says that, and we've had like two winners from Arkansas on that show.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean there are more master knife makers here in Arkansas than there are in any other state in the United States.
Oh my goodness!
So it's
my son. He's so excited about that show. So I'm gonna have to come see your forge sometime because he is so excited. He said that he wanted to start building knives. So we don't have anything like that here, and he actually, my husband has a cabinet shop, and he has a bunch of like cabinet making stuff and saws. So they cut out knives out of these old saw blades, and he got to like grind them down without having to use the heat. And my son was ecstatic, and he's all like, "Look what I made! Oh my
gosh!" That's exactly how I got started. I mean, that's how a lot of us get started. Cutting out something, and yeah, that's exactly how most of it gets started. So what you just described there was stock removal, and so there's stock removal and there's forging, and for the most part now, there's there used to be kind of like a competition or like a rivalry or maybe even like a turf war between the stock removal guys and the forging guys, right? And and both would be like my way is better and my than your way or whatever. But it's really funny. We're kind of coming together now. Here in Central Arkansas, there is it's called the Arkansas Knife Guild, and so now we have basically about 3 major hubs in Arkansas for knife making. 4 really. We have the north east area up in Jonesboro. There's a blacksmithing organization up there, and they do a lot of knife making. And also in northwest up there by Fayetteville area, there's a lot of blacksmiths up there. And then of course in south, closer to Texarkana, the south western area, and then central Arkansas down in Conway. And so the central area, we have the Arkansas Knife Guild, and we invite people from all over the state too. But I could talk about that forever. But I'm trying to loop this back around to the destigmatizing mental health, right?
Well, let's
loop that back around.
Let's talk a little bit about your shirt then. Show us your shirt,
and
let's talk about how we're going to tie this back into therapy.
All right. So can you read that?
All right. Yes.
All right. So my wife got me that shirt, and obviously I'm a therapist too, right? So I'm not just totally trying to discourage therapy or whatever, but I will wear this.
All of it.
Right. Exactly. Because I will wear this to like demonstrations that I do, blacksmithing demonstration, knife making demonstrations. And so I'll wear that shirt, and it'll get conversation started, because basically the whole point is I've heard this statement right here in various forms for years, ever since I've been in the field. I'll tell someone that I'm in the counseling field, or back when I was a MHPP, I'd be like, yeah, I'm like an assistant therapist sort of. And heard back from guys was, I go hunting. Being in the woods is my church. Or, I fish. That's my therapy. You know what I mean? And at that line, that you get from guys about their thing that they do is their therapy, And what's interesting is that's basically what blacksmithing and knife making became for me. It became a source of and I want to say it's beyond a coping skill, and I know it is. It's not, and I don't want to say bad things about coping. Coping skills are a good thing, but it is, from what I've observed and not even knew what I was doing. And I listened to instructors and stuff, like some of the champions that have been on Forged in the Fire, like Matthew Parkinson. I believe his forge is Dragon's Breath Forge, and he has instructional videos on YouTube. And I'll go watch his videos, and if you just listen to him talk, and you listen to the instructions he's giving, and you follow it, and you just listen to how slow he talks and exactly how he's saying things, it's a mindfulness practice. It's not just a coping skill, although coping skills are good, I think I kind of stumbled into it, you know what I mean? And then I started hearing things as the more people I met, and just being, my personality, I like talking to people. So I just made it my own kind of personal mission to travel the state and meet as many blacksmiths and knife makers as I could. And as I did that, I started picking up these little, pieces of information along the way. And it's kind of my own little research, I guess, in a way. But a lot of it is I really wanted to find out more. And I met that was the then president of the Blacksmithing Organization of Arkansas, BOA. And a plug for those guys, if you're interested in any kind of blacksmithing or anything, forging, anything, that's the statewide chapter. You can buy your coal there for super cheap. We get our coal out of Oklahoma, Veneta, Oklahoma. That's where we get it from. It's good stuff. I mean, you might even know where that's at.
I do. I'll definitely post their links in our comment section so people can find that too. So that way they can find the chapters.
So let me tell you about that guy. So because I can just keep talking. Interrupt me if you got to, but let me tell you about him though. So his name is Dale Custer. Really neat guy, and I don't think he'll mind me dropping his name on here because he was our president for a while there, and I really enjoyed talking to Dale. His military experience is what spoke to me, and his just like a lot of the guys that I've met, just very kind men, but also very solid and intense men. And I met several men like this, older than I, almost like mentors of mine. And another one that I met, still close to, is a guy named Jim Solman. And he's up in the north east area. And I met a lot of good guys up there too. And again, this very solid, kind person. And then I met another guy named Terry Wright. And again, just this very solid, and Terry's a little more rough around the edges. And I want him to watch this, and he'll maybe give me a little cussing for saying that. But he actually be like, yeah, you're right, Sean. But I started meeting these guys, right? They were my elder. They were solid people. And I started hearing about the kind of funny stories that they would tell about these younger guys like me and younger that would come to the forges with like issues, drug addictions, PTSD, and how they would just kind of somehow miraculously be healed after a little while. You know, weird stuff. And when I met Dale, and he told me about some information, how it related to soldiers that were being treated with blacksmithing, with PTSD. And I was like, what? That's crazy. And I mean, if you just do a simple Google search on it now, it'll fill up now. I mean, veterans affairs groups like use blacksmithing now for soldiers, for PTSD, It's
amazing.
Yeah, it is. And it really, I don't know what's going on. I mean, I went to the Brain Spotting Conference about 6 months ago, and I think I was given a little more insight in that training as to what's maybe happening during the blacksmithing process, especially when you get the bug, when you get bitten by the bug. There's a bug, and I think your son and husband got it. They get bit by it,
I think so.
Yeah, I think something happens, and I'll never forget this one guy. And I heard from a relative that after he got the bug, his spending, what he was buying, changed. And the person just thanked me for the introduction of this to that person because of how their spending changed. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. You mentioned the details here. So yeah, thanks.
Right. Right.
I had no clue that because whenever you started talking about it, I thought, well, I do play therapy, so I could totally see integrating an experiential process like this into therapy, but I didn't realize they were already doing it. So it sounds awesome.
Right. That was what it was like for me. I was like, oh, what is this? And then so I start looking it up and I'm like, okay, there's something here, man, And then the funny thing started happening. Like, I love talking about it. It's so trippy. The accessibility piece. That's when I'm like holding one of the accessibility piece. So when I started just getting into this and had made those connections across the state and things like this, and started forming those relationships that were beneficial to me, and then just the whole process, all of a sudden people started referring students to me, and that was kind of funny because it wasn't like I was like a counselor getting referrals or something, you know what I mean? But it was like people were like bitten by the bug and they would go digging and they would go, hey, there's a guy in your area. He's in Searcy, And then before I knew it, people were showing up, It was just funny because the backgrounds that people were showing up with was, again, military, pilots, doctors, and it was just like, what's happening here? Like, what is this? And it was really fun because I got to work with, still got to work with a lot of those guys, really neat people that I'm now just friends with. And that's how I got Charlie, the Australian Shepherd. He was a gift, like literally a gift from one of my students. And from what I understand, those are kind of expensive dogs. So I gladly accepted that gift,
So you teach. Is that
yep.
you teach blacksmithing then?
Yeah, so I have a small forge where I teach. I actually teach right out here in the front carport, and I can turn the camera. And I use it to travel with. So I do traveling, lessons, and then I also use it just here at the house. And the class I had going for, I forgot, about 6 solid months. I had a regular class going. I had to cut back on it, just how much work it was, but it's still going. And the guys that started that group, there's about 6 of them that came on all at one time, and they were all younger guys, and they named themselves Forge Club. And they said the first rule of Forge Club is to tell everyone about Forge Club.
Yes.
Again, the mental health piece there, that just is crazy how it keeps doing that, keeps cycling back to that. And okay, I'll show you the little forge that I got. It's all about accessibility. So I built these out of lawnmower decks. They're super easy to build.
Oh, wow.
You can see it's a lawnmower deck and a blower. That's it. And it's bed frame rails for the sides. That's it.
Wow.
Okay. Literally it. And so when I do demonstrations, I try to teach people about how, if you have a love for something, just do it. Do with whatever you have. And make it easy. Just get into it. Start hammering, And so again, the accessibility thing, I was invited to go do demonstrations at the Barton Coliseum for 2 years now. And I mean, this is like a huge event, like 30,000 people come to this event,
Wow.
And it's huge. And the man, his name is, actually his forge. I'll start with his forge. Little Bear Forge is in Central Arkansas. And I got to give those guys a plug simply because, okay, about Little Bear Forge, right? So Little Bear Forge invited me to come down to the Big Butt Classic in Central Arkansas, which is, in Little Rock. And it's basically a huge event once a year for hunters. And so knife making is a part of the demonstrations down there. And he's been doing it for like 10 years. He himself, Robert Rhodes, who owns Little Bear Forge, has been doing those demonstrations down there, and he invited me to come on. And so when I talk and when I present down there, it's the same thing. I realized that the people were going to be coming and watching me, and I wanted to show them a way to get into this easier, right? And so I brought all the tools that I had handmade, right? All the tools, all the forges, everything that I had handmade in my shop here, that shows that, hey, man, you don't need to go out and buy $1,000 worth of tools to get into this, you can start off with some stuff, whatever, from Harbor Freight, and just figure it out, and it's that mentality that I'm just hooked in. I'm like very deep in it, and it's just that mentality that I can figure things out in a new way. That it's that kind of, I guess, like flexible thinking that I really see how the blacksmithing thing helped me. And so I'll explain that, I'll tell the story about how, have you ever been locked out of your kid's bedroom and, all you need is that little tool that goes in the hole, right? And you can turn it, you know what I'm talking about, right? So like typically I would just be stressed out because I have no idea where that tool's out, right? And then I'd have to go, oh, I can find my small screwdriver, right? Well, I will never forget the day that thinking just, there was a switch that was flipped. And it was not too long after I got into blacksmithing. And I was stressed. My kid locked herself in the room or something. I couldn't get in there. And I just said, I'll just make it. I'll just make it. And so I ran outside real quick, grabbed my hammer and a coat hanger, and I just hammered out a small screwdriver real quick that was just long enough to reach in the hole, and turned and opened it up. And that was it. And it's that kind of like flexible thinking, I think, is what blacksmithing kind of helps with, because you're doing all your own stuff. Like it brings you back to a way of life where there are no stores. So if you need something, you make it, And I've not gone all the way back in time yet to being able to make stuff literally out of the dirt in the ground, But there are guys here in Arkansas that have. And I mean, like, they go get dirt, turn the dirt into metal, and turn the metal into stuff,
Wow.
That's awesome, right? And so that's kind of where I feel like, the accessibility piece comes around just to the craft itself, but also to getting people help that need help, because it's not getting help isn't just sitting necessarily in an office or laying on a couch, right? And having to like follow this kind of idea we have about what counseling is, and the accessibility, to counseling is, I think there's so many different ways to get help, and this is just one of them, this is just one that I'm stumbling upon, you know what I mean? So I think whatever barriers there are, whatever tools we can't find, we can make to get there, right? So if someone's trying to figure out how they can get help, it's like, it doesn't got to be me and blacksmither come and talk to me, whatever, figure it out, So that's kind of the thing the approach I kind of look at it, and what I feel like the main thing is. And so that's, I feel like, in destigmatizing counseling and destigmatizing, mental health issues, I think it's important that we all kind of come to realize that supporting each other, that's helping us work through our stuff, So it doesn't have to be just counseling either, So anyhow, I can keep going. So if you want to ask me another question, I can stop.
We've talked about a lot of them, but it's so interesting to me about using blacksmithing in therapy too, and doing groups or individual with it. Have you done any of that?
Okay. So, my initial idea with that is to basically have like one day, kind of like your video you had not too long ago with, I forget the counselor's name who does the intensives. Who is that?
Melinda Taylor.
I watched that video you had on there, and I was like, that's exactly what I wanted to do. Originally that was the idea. And so I talked to another therapist here locally about how they're doing those intensives and those kind of things. And so that, I think, is probably the best setting, because of just how much you have to learn in order to do the blacksmithing, in order to walk away from it and go like, okay, I felt like there was something there, And so that would be like one-on-one kind of like thing, but I've also thought that like a group thing would be good. And so what I have done so far is I've had people over here individually, actually at my house, right? And just meeting folks and doing stuff. And it's just, they come away with an overwhelming sense of just like like relaxation, right? And so I'm not really doing therapy per se, but they're getting the benefit from it already. And then I've done one larger group. It was 4 guys, and spent an entire day. It was a solid 8 hours, and that was work. It was work. And what I seen happening there, as I'm kind of like trying to figure this stuff out, where I could like use that in the future, is just my presentation and pace and guidance and patience in working with something, a hot fire, steel, a hammer, an anvil, all these things, safety glasses, and all these things that require just presence of mind. But also, when you work with one person to the next, a lot of stuff comes up from the past, not necessarily even memories, but a lot of people don't want to work with another dude just simply because when they worked with their dad as a kid, he was mean in the shop,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's just the fact. I mean, right? There's a lot of transference, counter transfer, all kinds of stuff. And so just being a present-minded and patient person, which is difficult for me to do, but something that I'm learning, right? Just being able to be that and teaching someone how to use something that's extremely dangerous, like quenching a knife blade, is a very dangerous thing. Like, you can burn the crap out of yourself and burn your house down if you're not careful. Like, people have done it. You know what I mean? It's crazy dangerous, but being, present-minded and can be very, is, how we do those kind of things. So that's kind of some of the things I've been thinking with that. But also, I recently, before the, pandemic hit, I contacted a men's group that does retreats. And I just offered for free. I said, hey, I'll just come do this for free. I know you got 80 guys out there that have the purpose on walking closer to God. That's the whole purpose of their retreat. It's called Man Alive. And I said, hey, I'll just come and offer this stuff for free, because I want to help kind of get the personal experience it takes to guide several people at a time, promote my own business too, but also that organization and that retreat. I went on that and I experienced how awesome that was in that retreat. And I was like, man, it would be such a cool thing to be able to offer something like that there to those guys that had that purpose in mind to begin with. Right. So I've not done it like formally, but the processes and things that's happening, I think are what's helping me be more present-minded with my patients, especially using things like brain spotting, and especially walking through some issues, that just take a lot of present moment awareness about things, and just simply being aware of myself and what I bring to the counseling environment, and then also being aware, helping the other person become aware of themselves too, because it's funny. I love all the little things that happen in the forge when you're with other guys. I'll never forget a guy named Wes Ford. Sorry, there's a bug on my screen. I step up to the forge, right? And I'm up in Jonesboro. I step up to the forge and we're told to make a leaf. And I get the hammer out and I get the piece of metal out and I'm heating it up. And there's like 5 guys watching me. And so immediately, like, the deepest core stuff starts coming out, right? I step up there to the anvil and the forge, and like I said, like 5 guys standing around me, and I turn and I say, how did I say it? I say, critics are welcome. And literally before I had a chance to breathe back in after saying that, this really deep, raspy voice from like off in the corner behind me says, you're your own worst critic. And I was just like stunned. And I was like, I don't like that guy. You know what I mean? Immediately, I don't like that guy. But then he became like, and I was like a real good friend, You know what I mean? So we project stuff, we put it out there. And it's just like, immediately I was like, wow, there's something here, I don't understand all what's going on, but there's something here. And I forgot exactly where I was going at that point, just to describe the experience of it,
I can't imagine the mindfulness that has to go into this. And it is I mean, pure mindfulness that you have to practice that and glass blowing between the
Glass
knot
blowing.
forging and glass blowing. Oh my God.
I'll The glass blowing scares me now. Like, it didn't scare me before. It just looked really pretty. But now I'm like, no, I know what's happening now. That's dangerous. That's some dangerous stuff. So, I mean, not trying to scare anybody off from it. And then maybe that might attract you to it. But yeah, I know a little bit more what's going on with it now. Because, oh my gosh, I mean, some of the same concepts apply with knife making and, striking metal when it's cold. I've done that. And it didn't result in a bad issue. But one time I did, and just a little tiny piece of metal came off. I'm talking just a little tiny piece came off. It was still pretty hot. I mean, about 800 degrees, and it just thumped my middle finger. And I felt it thump it. That's all. And as soon as it thumped my finger, I said, "That's bad. That's real bad." Because there was no pain, and all I felt was just a light pressure and it thumped my finger. And the reason why I knew it was bad is because it was able to move my finger, and I was holding my hand, right? And I was able to move my finger, and I was like, "No, that's bad." And what it had done was it had like slid under my fingernail and came out. And yeah. And so I pulled my hand out. I pulled my hand out, and I looked at it, and I could just literally pull the skin from under my fingernail away from it. It just was completely dead. And I was like, "Oh God, what just happened?" So, I mean, the same thing with glass blowing, right? That stuff can explode. Yeah. It's not good. Yeah. It's not.
But I can totally see how this would destigmatize therapy for a lot of people who are just like, no, I'm not going in there and talking to somebody about this, or I'm not going to sit there. There's no way I'm going to talk about my feelings. And what is mindfulness? No way.
Right. It sounds hippie and it sounds Eastern until the blacksmith you're working with slaps you in the head because you're doing something dumb, and he says, "Pay attention."
Yeah.
Pay attention. And that's my thing. I have a difficulty with just paying attention, and this really helps me to get regrounded. And I honestly, I've never been slapped in the head like that by my blacksmithing folks. I've definitely had comments from them that have kind of shook me and go, "Oh, okay, let's let's slow down here a little bit in here, and let's pay a little bit more attention to what's going on."
So thank you so much for joining me today for this and talking about blacksmithing. I think there's so much more I have to learn about this, and I'm very excited about talking to you in the future about this and a couple other things that you've mentioned. So I hope that you'll be a guest again. And thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you, Rachel. It's good talking to you.
It was good talking to you.
Take two.
Okay, so if you guys like this video and would like to subscribe to our channel, feel free to subscribe and like this video, share it with people, and comment below about things you want to talk about or things you want to see us talk about and people you might want us to visit with. So we'll see you later. Thanks. Bye.